Why am I so excited about silver today when the price has fallen? I'll explain as we explore. That's right, silver is down today, and it is down below the critical support of $33 an ounce, but there is some good news here. There's a silver lining in silver's price, folks. And in order to find out what that is, we got to look at gold. But before we get there, whenever there's a dip in gold and silver prices, well, that's a good opportunity to take advantage of the market and make a purchase if your budget allows. Our friends at Summit Metals have some really good prices on gold and silver, so check them out. See if they have what you're looking for at the price that it is you're looking for. SummitMetals.com. So what happened today is gold and silver both fell, although believe it or not, platinum and palladium went up. That is part of the reason why silver did something special today. But gold has fallen more than 1% after Trump has announced a UK trade deal. This is a pretty big deal. Gold extended losses and fell more than 1% after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a trade deal with the United Kingdom, raising hopes of such deals with other countries. And this is a pretty big one here. In fact, what happened today with gold is it fell over 1.72% moments before the markets close. That's down over $57. In fact, almost $58 an ounce at $3,308.20. Of course, that drop happened after I made a purchase, which really makes me upset. But hey, the first world problems, right? Silver, though, it fell only 4 cents today. That's right, 0.14% drop, $32.49, narrowing the gold to silver ratio to 102. Still very high, but it's a little small victory for today. And of course, I know some people are going to respond down in the comments. Well, it's only one day. It'll come back in line, and gold will outperform tomorrow. But you know what? When we see things like this, it's hints of what could be coming for silver. I remain optimistic about silver. And I'm holding on to my $36 an ounce prediction, and I think that if more of these trade deals come together, I think that means that more silver will flow through products that will be coming in and out of the United States of America. And Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a breakthrough deal on trade. A 10% tariff on goods imported from the UK remains in place, while Britain agreed to lower its tariffs to 1.8% from 5.1% and provide greater access to U.S. goods. If we also get a deal ironed out between the U.S. and China, there'll be a lot of resistance to the upside, and gold should trade back down too, to the very least at $3,200 an ounce, according to Bob Habercorn, senior market strategist at RJO Futures. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer are set to meet with China's top economic official this coming Saturday in Switzerland. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But this is one of those cases where, folks, we are seeing silver trade down, but not nearly as much as gold. And as represented here, silver is mostly an industrial metal, so think of this as an industrial bar, even though it really is a bullion bar. And the best way to give a hint as to how it's trading today is looking at other metals like platinum and palladium. Both of those metals are up. Also, what about other commodities? Crude oil is up over 3.5%. Crude oil is spiking today. What about aluminum? Aluminum is up slightly. Copper and nickel, they're down slightly, but they're kind of trading pretty much kind of in tandem with silver right now. And so that is really kind of what we're looking at there to see what's happening. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial is up on this news as well. So is the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. The dollar index is up. It is now above 100 again. So that gives you a sign, and that silver is really being resilient considering what's going on with the markets and everything. So the other thing too that we have to make that is newsworthy is cryptocurrencies are up fairly substantially, with Ethereum up over 17% right now, and Bitcoin has now reached back up above $100,000 a Bitcoin. So it looks like that the cryptocurrencies are doing well, and I think in some ways you could liken that essentially to maybe that the economy is doing not as bad as they thought, and silver is benefiting from that, or will benefit from it if the signs are there with what's happening with the markets here. So bullion, widely regarded as a hedge against geopolitical uncertainty, had hit multiple record highs since Trump first announced the tariffs. Elsewhere, China's central bank has approved foreign exchange purchases by commercial banks to pay for gold imports under recently increased quotas, according to two people with direct knowledge of the matter. Theoretically, this move should boost gold prices as increased demand from China becomes a factor. However, current market dynamics are dominated by developments surrounding tariffs. So likely we're going to see gold continue to play a role and move up. And silver could benefit of that and move pretty much like a precious metal, like what we have seen in the past. And so therefore, expect a high gold to silver ratio to continue, but silver's prices could move in a northerly direction along with gold. The other thing we have to look at is gold reserves in the London vaults. They rose in April as more of the precious metal returned from New York after dislocation. Market players had increased gold deliveries to the U.S. in the December through March period to cover their COMEX positions against the possibility that the U.S. would impose tariffs on imports of gold and silver. And so now that we're seeing this, and with silver now being more resilient than gold today, I think that we could be at the beginning of a period where we very well may see silver start to perform much better, and that could play a role as to what happens in the future with the gold to silver ratio narrowing somewhat. And I think that likely if we see 80 to 1 gold to silver ratio and silver move up above that $36 an ounce level, I think that'll be a good sign that at least silver is in the game, and as long as gold continues to climb. Now, there are situations where gold could definitely fall back and silver could increase if we see more days like today, especially if the economy tends to do well and there's more strong demand for silver and products that flow back and forth. And that is something that we could see the ratio narrow to below 80. I don't think it's going to be much below 80, but that is a possibility to continue to watch the markets move. Now remember, we have to be agile and understand the reality of the markets and what moves the prices from here. And a lot of that is really emboldened by central bank holding on the gold and continuing to accumulate the metal. And now with China, the Chinese commercial market adding a lot more too. The other factor is, of course, industrial demand and of silver that is going to continue to play a role and put pressure on the markets to move the price in an upward direction. Of course, we cannot discount the fact that we have derivatives. We've got manipulation mainly from the Federal Reserve, big banks tied to it. And that is the strong dollar is going to weigh on both gold and silver, but silver is going to have a much bigger impact on its on that than gold will. Gold is more resilient naturally, but the fact that central banks hold it means that it is much less susceptible to these volatile moves than silver is. But today is a little bit of a mini celebration here, as we usually expect to see silver fall much more than gold, but the ratio is narrowed somewhat here. So very interesting turn of events here today, a special move for silver. And again, in and of itself is not a big deal. However, it is a big deal if we start to see more of this activity and more trade deals announced that very well could be a breakthrough that could lead to higher silver prices because of the demand. And so we're going to keep an eye on things, and also want to remind you of a video I posted earlier today. You're going to want to not miss it, It's about what could lead gold and silver to go up dramatically with the India and Pakistan confrontations that they're having right now. So it could lead to a full-scale war. It's been a relatively quiet day, but that has not settled in yet. So we'll see what happens there. So make sure to check that video. I'm going to post a link to it at the end screen here. And with that being said, I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.